Hey beauties, and welcome to another video on the energies for this forthcoming super full moon in Taurus on the 15th or the 16th of November, depending on your location on the planet. So needless to say, there's a lot going on. And this is actually the fourth super moon in a row. And it's going to be the very last one that we have until next October 2025. Now, supermoons are, as the name might imply, particularly powerful. It's when the moon is closer to Earth than usual. So therefore, it's brighter, it's bigger, it's stronger, and has more of a gravitational pull on the Earth, and therefore all of the Earth's inhabitants. And yes, it's generally a lot more influential as a result. A full moon will shine a light on what is ready to reveal. This is what full moons do. And so they bring about anything under this that needs to be seen, that's been hidden under the surface, anything that needs to be revealed, and can oftentimes bring about completions, the culmination of things, endings, releases, allowing us the opportunity to let go. And they can also, because of course the full moon, it's the moon is at its fullest point, it's ripe, shall we say, and so this can also be the culmination point of any manifestations that we've put in place previously. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about manifestations a little bit later on. It's a full moon in Taurus, but it's at the 24th degree, which is actually a Pisces degree. And Pisces also symbolizes completions, endings, dissolutions, letting go, all of that kind of thing, which is incidentally something that the Taurus energy isn't much keen on. You know, Taurus is a very stable energy, really values security, stability, going slowly, really smelling the roses, plodding along, really being very present in the body and with all its senses, not being rushed. It's a fixed sign, Taurus, and so it really doesn't want to move quickly, does not like change. You know, it's represented by the bull. And the sign is oftentimes associated with stubbornness because it doesn't like to move quickly. It wants to be very steady, really values that kind of sense of peace and groundedness. And yeah, I always imagine lolling around in a field, really smelling daisies and making daisy chains and talking to cows whenever I tap into Taurus energy. Wants to take things slowly, doesn't want to rush, definitely doesn't like change. However, we are right in the middle of this really kind of gargantuan planetary shift, you know, where everything is changing at a very quick speed. There's so much going on. Everything is shifting. A lot of things are closing out for good. And so the question really is, how can we find this Taurus energy within us? How can we find this sense of peace, this sense of groundedness and security and stability? How can we find that within ourselves when everything else is in flux around us, rapidly shifting, and yeah, in many cases closing out for good? And suffice to say, this full moon is absolutely marking a turning point. So with all of that said, let's put up the chart, shall we? I'm going to share my screen. Okay, guys, so here we've got the chart, and we've got the full moon in Taurus here at 24 degrees, opposing the sun in Scorpio at 24 degrees. This is always the case, of course, during a full moon. This is what makes it a full moon. The moon is opposing directly the sun. And needless to say, actually, don't pay attention to the clock face or, you know, the houses or the signs on the cusp of the houses or anything like that. I've actually set this chart for Bangkok because I live in Thailand, but of course, we are just going to be looking at the planets and their signs and the relationship between them all. So now I've already mentioned change because it's certainly coming. You know, guys, this time is so pivotal. Look what's next to the full moon. Yes, it is Uranus. We've got Uranus in the mix. And Uranus is the planet of sudden change, chaos, truth bombs. It's that lightning bolt of truth. It's really the great awakener, Uranus, the planet of revelation, revolution, planet of shocks. And it's really so tightly conjunct the full moon in Taurus here with just 1 degree of separation. Can you see this? moon in Taurus is at 24 degrees and Uranus is right next door at 25 degrees. And it's very jarring. It feels like a shock. It's like, whoa, because the moon in Taurus, the moon is actually very, very comfortable in Taurus. The moon is exalted in Taurus. The moon rules nurturing, the natural cycles of life. And of course, Taurus loves to be nurtured. Taurus is very much attuned to the natural cycles of life and being in alignment with them. And Uranus is not having a bar of that. Uranus has come here and really feels like this energy is here to jolt Taurus out of any old comfort, any comfort zones that it really needs to get out of now, that otherwise might be keeping Taurus stuck. Otherwise, for sure, this energy won't move. And we're at the end of a cycle at the minute. You know, Pluto is actually, I mean, look down here. Pluto, look at this, 29 degrees of Capricorn, 29 degrees and 56 minutes. Pluto's at its very last breath of Capricorn at this full moon. It's really closing out something big, actually closing out the last 16-year cycle. So this is no small thing. Actually, you know, talking of Taurus slowness, it might really be worth slowing down at some point and really reflecting on the last 16 years and just seeing how far you've come throughout all the changes and all the transformations that Pluto will have been guiding you through in his very hardball way. It's not an easy journey with Pluto in the Capricorn areas of your chart. I mean, you'll have been through such a journey. We've all been through such a huge journey with Pluto in Capricorn, and it's just about closing out here. So to make sure that we close something out along with this huge energy that's going to be moving into Aquarius on the 19th of November, so just a few days after this full moon, here we've got Uranus, and you know, it's going to bring about a shock, could bring about an external event that, you know, really catalyzes. I'm really seeing it as some like a real widening of a perspective that you had before. So your perspective becomes much bigger as a result of something that happens, or result of something that comes to your attention that you cannot ignore anymore. This is a catalyzing energy, and it's coming forward, you know, to really jolt you into your higher timeline. So it's always worth remembering this whenever we see signatures like this in the chart and we think, oh my God, what's coming? What's going to come? Just remember that whatever happens, whatever this energy brings forth to be seen and to be recognized is just to see it as an opportunity and a huge opening to get the bigger picture and to get really some incredibly insightful, highly inspirational downloads as to a new way of moving forward. This is where anything that needs to close out can close out, so that when this new cycle starts, we're on the very cusp of it. You can move forward with purpose. So as I've said, there could be an external event that catalyzes a big awakening into a wider perspective. It also feels like an internal shift that comes about as a result of perhaps something that happens, but ultimately which just contains more information, contains more wisdom, contains more, Uranus brings forward a truth that gives you a much deeper understanding and a much deeper knowledge, you know, containing cosmic downloads that can really catapult you forward at breakneck speed now. So absolutely, however this plays out, as always, it's always, you know, especially with the conjunction to Taurus that rules the body, it really is to just sit in the sensations of your body with as much detachment that's Uranus, from the story as possible. And from this space, it feels like some real rocket fuel wisdom from Uranus is very likely to come through. So just trust it. Trust whatever happens. Be open to change. Be open to change. Taurus doesn't like change. Taurus is incredibly resistant. Both Taurus and Scorpio, they're on the same axis. They're both energies that are very determined, resistant, strong, and immovable. They're fixed signs. But of course, if you resist change at this point, if you judge it, if you condemn it, if you try and avoid it, or anything like that, then you're just going to stay stuck. And I don't even know whether that's going to be possible actually at this time. Uranus is so strong here, and we're so strongly at this closing out cycle. And Pluto is here to really facilitate this. This is an easy aspect. This is a trine. So all the ingredients are here to help to facilitate the moving through into a brand new cycle. So in a nutshell, it really is to trust the energy and trust whatever happens, even though it might be shocking, even though it might knock the wind out your sails, whatever it is, just keep on tuning into your body and be open to these higher dimensional frequencies and these insights that want to show you a completely new direction and show you the new path. And it's very exciting, actually. Uranus really wants to gift so much higher wisdom and so much electric inspiration, and all of it could really come as quite a surprise. You might suddenly see for the first time a potential that you've never even envisioned before now, and that's the sudden hit that Uranus, and that's how Uranus jolts you out of your Taurus comfort zone, and it might all come as such a surprise, like, wow, so this is what this is supposed to look like. Oh wow, this is where my soul is headed. I had no idea. And we've mentioned him already, but let's go down here to meet with Pluto again, the turbocharged transformer, who's here trining the moon and Uranus, trining this conjunction and sextiling the sun. His very last whisper of Capricorn. And this is really interesting. Look what we've got here. We've got asteroid Ceres here, conjunct Pluto. Now Ceres rules the natural world as well as Taurus, and also rules the nurturing principle. And so initially, when I first looked at this chart, the first thing that came to me was, oh, it's an invitation to really ask yourself, how can you nurture yourself through great change now? Because change is inevitable. So it is a question of how can you hold yourself through this, however things play out, in real trust and surrender and in readiness for the next cycle. But actually, I realized that it's a lot deeper than just a simple question of how can we nurture ourselves. At this point, I'd really love to share a little bit more about Ceres here. I actually started working with some of the asteroids last year. And honestly, they have got so much wisdom to impart to us. They're such wisdom goddesses. Started to study and I started to really delve deeply into the first four, and they are Ceres, Pallas Athena, Vesta, and Juno. So Ceres is the Roman equivalent of Demeter, and Demeter is the Greek goddess of the harvest, of agriculture. She rules the cycles, the seasons, and she is the mother of Persephone. Now, in Greek mythology, Persephone lived very happily, very simplistically, in a very Taurus way, in the meadow with her mother Demeter, or Ceres. And it was perpetually summer at that point, and they just lived very much in peace and, having a really slow existence, until one day, Persephone, she's there in the meadow plucking her flowers or making daisy chains or whatever she's doing, and she is very suddenly Uranus. Very, very suddenly, out of the blue, without warning. What a shock. She is abducted by Hades, otherwise known as Pluto. Hades is the Greek version of Pluto. Abducted and taken, forced against her will from Summerlands, from the easy Taurus existence, right into the depths of the underworld, right down into the depths, where she's going to be kept hostage against her will. But here she really goes through an initiation. This is the journey that Persephone goes through, and this is where she ultimately integrates part of her own shadow. She integrates her own darkness, and as a result, when she emerges back out into the outer world in springtime, she emerges not as she was before, because she has become something much more powerful. She has completely integrated her shadow, so now she's the fully embodied and sovereign queen of the underworld. And yeah, she's, as Carl Jung would say, she has gone through a process of individuation, and she's whole, she's integrated, she's more powerful than she was before, and she rises anew into spring. However, Demeter, or Ceres, she had been clinging on so tightly to her daughter, wanted to keep her innocent. She was the ultimate helicopter mum, Demeter or Ceres. And so in the myth, when Persephone, when she makes that very unexpected descent in such a Uranian style, she's really pulled unexpectedly down into the depths of hell, then Ceres or Demeter, she grieves. This energy of Ceres also rules grief and loss. She grieves her loss so much that whilst Persephone's gone, learning her lessons, gathering all the lost parts and becoming whole and individuated, Ceres actually stops the seasons. Well, there were no seasons before then. There was only summer, but basically she stops the crops from growing, so ensures that life is perpetually in winter. Life becomes winter until Persephone returns. And when she does return, it's the birth of something completely new. And so this is the heralding of spring. It's the rebirth. And so then, of course, the plants and the flowers begin to bloom again. And at some point later on, summer can return. So this energy, this cycle, this process is something that it feels we're all invited to become more aware of, or become more comfortable, a Taurus word, become more comfortable with, because this is the only thing that's constant. Taurus likes constancy, right? But of course, change is inevitable, and change is the only thing that is constant. And it's in these natural cycles of death, going into our own darkness and shedding a skin, that we can be reborn, we can reemerge as a completely new, in a completely new way, in a completely new form of ourselves. So this is just such a really beautiful wisdom, and look, it's playing out right now. And it's really in underlining that whatever happens over this full moon, even if something is very shocking happens that plunges you into a state of not knowing what's going on, and a period of darkness, or where you have to really dig to find your own power again, know that it's happening for you to find your own power, so you can reemerge fresh into spring and ready to really begin this new cycle in a completely new way. So as this story teaches us, if we follow the cycles of nature and become accustomed to this constant cycle of death, rebirth, then we will always experience springtime, and springtime will always feel fresh, new and exciting, and ready for a brand new spin around the wheel. So yeah, the wisdom that comes from these ancient energies is just such a real gift, teaching us to not cling on, and just teaching us to not cling on to what needs to die, and to therefore always move in alignment with non-resistance and with curiosity to change, and with a deep understanding that this, even though sometimes it might be jarring, it is also part of our natural cycle down here in this very earthly realm. So yeah, so Ceres being conjunct Pluto and trining the moon here, it's so symbolic of the invitation and the need to let go, to know how to let go, in the understanding that this is really what allows for transformation and for real growth. So it's not by clinging or holding on to how things used to be. It's not by hovering over our creations, our projects, or our very deeply embedded beliefs on how things should be or how we believe things should turn out. It's actually just to really remain in full trust that nature is just going to do its thing. And your creation, your intention, what is meant for you will always find its way to bloom naturally in your full surrender to the process. Of course, Ceres, as I said already, symbolizes grief and loss. And so, yeah, there might be some grieving to do at this point of the end of the cycle. There might well be some feelings of loss at this time. But yeah, just know that this is really about becoming more in tune with the cycles of life and also the cycles of death and rebirth. And yeah, and death and the descent into the underworld is only ever simply allowing the shedding of old skins in order to move forward in readiness for the next chapter. Death is actually the beginning, you know. So alongside really honoring the last journey of Pluto through Capricorn, this can really be a time of honoring the old, really honoring the old, and in preparation for stepping into the new. Now, with the sun in Scorpio, the light bulb realization that I spoke about, that Uranus is wanting to gift us with, you know, this could also come forward as a result of deep intuition that comes from the wisdom of your body. Scorpio is so incredibly intuitive, and yeah, there might be some very strong felt sensations that it will be very wise to tune into at this time. And then on this note, you know, on the note of strong intuitive hunches, you know, let's remember that the full moon is at the Piscean degree, which is a very psychic energy. And look, down here, we've got Neptune in Pisces, and that's forming a sextile to the moon and Uranus conjunction and the sun and a trine to the sun. And Saturn is also here in Pisces. Saturn's also actually stationing direct on the day of the full moon. So this is a really big energy here. Saturn stops for a short while when it stations direct. So again, this is an invitation here to take some time. There's probably a lot that's going on. And so take some time, take a leaf out of Taurus's book, slow down, ground into the body, and listen to whatever messages that your intuition comes through to you with. And with all of this Piscean influence, and of course, with that very, really strong Uranus here, it really is to tune into the cosmos. You know, where is the energy guiding me towards? And staying anchored. Staying anchored is a real key piece here, because what's going on in the mental realm might well be a bit scattered. So if we look over here, we've got Mercury in Sagittarius, conjunct Pallas Athena, opposite Jupiter. Now, Mercury and Pallas, they're in Sagittarius, and Jupiter's in Gemini. This feels very scattered energy in the mental realms. It feels like there might well be a lot of options and a lot of activity, a lot of overthinking, a lot of possibility, just a lot of things going on, a lot of confusion as well, potentially, because of the overload in thoughts and possibilities. Plus, there's such a heavy Piscean influence. And so this being in the mental realm around this time might well prove very confusing. Pallas is the goddess of warfare and strategy, strategic thinking, creative thinking. And so there might be a big focus on your thoughts at the moment, but do try and just stay grounded. Now, Venus is here in Capricorn, which is great. This really adds a stable and a pragmatic energy to the mix. Now, Venus in Capricorn is in it for the long haul. She values integrity. She wants to make it work. So this energy is really helping us to stay grounded amidst any possible chaos that might be coming through at this time. You know, Venus in Capricorn doesn't want to rush. So yes, it might well be worth really consciously plugging into this energy at this time, because and the cautiousness of this energy, because there is really such a lot going on. Now, as we know, full moons mark the completion of what has been seeded earlier. And the final piece that I want to mention here, I'm just going to stop the share, is the fact that this full moon will be bringing to completion any manifestation, any intention that you may have seeded back in May 2023, and that was for the new moon in Taurus. And the reason it is that new moon, so last year and not this year, is because that new moon was at a very similar degree point to this full moon. That new moon was at 28 degrees, and this full moon is at 24 degrees. I mean, it actually got sparked into motion around the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in April this year. And here we have it at its culmination point. Taurus and Scorpio, they are on the financial, and they're on the money axis. Taurus rules the second house, which is about everything that you own. So everything from your values, your resources, how much money you have, your talents, all of that kind of thing. And Scorpio rules banking institutions, taxes, inheritances, resources that you share with others, other people's money. This basically suggests that anything that you seeded, any intentions that you seeded back then in May, I think it was May the 19th, that was the date of that new moon, May the 19th, 2023, this is what's coming up to the culmination point. So Uranus might bring through some huge realizations around that theme. So I'd love to hear how all of this plays out for you. Please drop a comment in the comments box and let me know. I'd love to hear it. In this 3D realm, we may have a shift of consciousness very quickly, but things take time to manifest on the physical plane. And sometimes it can be very peaceful to understand that, especially for someone like me. I'm always so impatient. It will manifest. It will manifest. And so it really is to develop and to cultivate that sense of patience, and to just take it easy, knowing that things are, the seeds are going to sprout in divine timing, and to just trust that, and just to always just trust the process. So I hope this has provided some insights for you. Please do drop a like, a comment, or subscribe to this channel if you like the content. And I'm wishing you a really resplendent full moon in Taurus. It's the last super full moon of this cycle. So really enjoy it. Go outside. It's going to be so big and bright. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.